The Theater Arts program was first offered in 2015 in response to the growing theater industry in the Philippines. What we did with the program is we divided it into 2 tracks so students can choose between the performance and the production track. Our students stand out because the program seeks to capitalize on the growth of the industry. So we give our students in-depth training in histories, in theories, and also in practice. Anybody who is interested and who is very much willing to learn about production and performance can definitely enroll in Benilde's Theater Arts program. Because we, as their faculty, we're also very much willing to teach them. The Theater Arts program fosters innovation through diverse inclusion. By being inclusive, we support and respect differences. This can actually be reflected in the quality of education, the environment, and the work that we produce. Our faculty are industry practitioners and leaders who are trailblazers in the academic field. The Theater Arts program creates a great environment conducive to learning and fostering creativity and technical innovation because we offer the students with the most current and advanced facilities.
I've been a theater professional for more than 15 years. I have a master's degree. I am a senior artist teacher of the Philippine Educational Theater Association, or PETA. I'm also an associate festival director of the Fringe Manila International Festival, particularly in charge of the program for Fringe University. I've trained with PETA, Tanghalang Pilipino, UP. I've trained with Stella Adler Studio of Acting and Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts as well. I teach introductory subjects in the practice of theater. I also teach theater history and theater readings, particularly those of theories, and also that of acting. Teaching is a way for me to contribute positively to the industry, to produce future theater professionals who will continuously explore possibilities and raise the standards of the industry, especially here in the Philippines. But more importantly, I teach to share the belief that theater is more than just a form of entertainment. It can bridge gaps and unify communities. It can resolve conflict. It can be a tool to effect positive social change. We welcome individuals who have the desire or passion, who would like to explore ways on how to tell stories differently, whether they want to create them, perform them, or simply make it happen. In the Theater Arts program, we don't just teach our students. We guide them in the start of their journey to discover themselves and discover their potentials, discover their capacities to create, and more importantly, believe that they can make things happen for themselves, for their communities, for Filipinos, and hopefully for the world. Musta is a multisensory, experiential journey that takes the audience through immersive spaces that unravels the inner workings of depression and mental health difficulties.
To me, I find it very brave and encouraging because an issue about mental health is very relevant. It's a conversation right now, and it gives the information out there that something is happening and there's something we can do about it.
The goal of the production is to encourage greater awareness about depression and about mental health. But it's actually more than just awareness. By putting the contraction of the Filipino word kamusta, how are you, or musta, as a title, it intends to interrogate the kind of relationships that we form within our communities, within our societies.
When it comes to technical and the creative process, it was actually really fun and of course busy because we had a lot of installations, but we also got challenging part of the technical and designing of the production itself. Is we actually used recycled bottles, the garbage bags and all that.
A lot about this production that's very new and very uncommon about any production that involves story, because it requires the audience to participate willingly and with a sense that they can choose how quickly they want to go through the story or how deeply they want to be involved in the story.
I feel great. I feel very, as a Benilde student, I feel very honored to be part of an event such as this, because it really provides us a training ground for our education. In here, we really learn by doing, and that's the beauty that Benilde does.
So I'm actually grateful for having this kind of events because I'm able to portray my abilities as an arts manager. I'm able to communicate and connect with people, not only communicate with people but also be able to know more about the production itself. You get involved in the production and it's really great.
Musta tells a story about depression, but it's more than just that. We want people to be aware of themselves. We want people to be aware of other people, be mindful of their experiences so that they will have an idea on how to live life each and every single moment of it. This performing arts workshop is a collaboration between Asrama Butitin, La Salvador's House, and the Office of Lasallian Missions in collaboration with the Benilde Arts and Culture Cluster. This is our second year doing this project in this beautiful and lovely community, Asrama Butitin.
We saw how much the students learned from our last year's workshop and have proposed again for us to be able to come back this year, 2017. So this year, we are a much more bigger group, and the involvement of faculty from Theater Arts Design Foundation, dance, music, and production design programs. We also have students from the Theater Arts program and alumni from the technical theater and production design programs.
We came back to Malaysia because we miss the people, the culture, and the food. This is our second time going in Malaysia, and seeing these kids again made us nostalgic about the first time we went here. We saw the same kids again, and there are a bunch of new ones who we had no troubles in getting to know and getting too close to.
After tapping into their expressive potentials last year, this time it's all about enhancing their capacities to create stories drawn from their community that is right for their culture and tradition.
This year, the culminating activity is the integration of the 5 workshops about the legend of Mount Kinabalu. Students from De La Salle Butitin will choreograph, work on their own lines, create the set pieces and costumes, and compose their own music for their final output.
Activity ini dapat berlaku bersama rekan-rekan saya. Walaupun mencoba, kerana ini dapat memberikan saya banyak kebaikan. Tanpa kerjasama, diri saya tidak akan dapat membuat satu aktiviti. Bekerjasama dalam kumpulan amatlah penting, karena tanpa kerjasama kita tidak akan berjaya dalam sesuatu aktiviti.
Importante sa akin itong journey na to kasi I get to meet new people with new culture, with new lifestyle na ibang-iba from Manila na I think will help me get more ideas for my course and for the program I chose. I think it's very important to have these kinds of workshops. Tulad nga na sinasabi ng aming consultant at ng aming mga professor, always share. And sharing is the most important thing in life kasi you develop social relationship.
Pengalaman saya dengan Bernard dan rekan-rekan ialah dalam melukis apa saja yang sukar. Secara keseluruhannya yang saya boleh katakan mengenal kerjasama ini bersama dengan Bernard dan ialah dapat mengenali bangsa Murut dan bangsa Tagalog.
Well, I want them to learn lifelong skills, especially in understanding the world visually. I want them to learn rudimentary drawing skills. And I also like the collaboration between our workshop and the other workshops in creating the production. I think the workshops here in Butitin pushes our school's vision of innovation and inclusion to a really different level as we are going out of the boundaries of our own country and exploring collaborations with other cultures.
I think it is very much in line with Benilde's mandate to be inclusive in that we don't just extend our reach within our borders, but we cross seas, mountains, oceans to share what we know and what we love.
It has always been embedded in me to give service to our community and fellow Lasallian brothers and sisters. I hope that this cycle of serving the community and our fellow Lasallian brothers and sisters will not end.
Before we begin today's webinar episode, we invite you to join us in prayer and afterwards in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Let me be the change I want to see. To do with strength and wisdom all that needs to be done, and become the hope that I can be. Set me free from my fears and hesitations. Grant me courage and humility. Give me the spirit to face the challenge and start the change I long to see. Today I start the change I want to see. Even if I'm not the light, I can be the spark in faith, service and communion. Let us start the change we want to see, the change that begins in me. Today I start the change I want to see. Even if I'm not the light, I can be the spark and fade. Service and communion, let us start the change we want to see. The change that begins here in me. Live Jesus in our hearts forever.
Mayang magiliw, pelas na silangan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lumang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupig, di ka masisi. Sa dagat at mundong sasimayan, sa langit mamakaw, may nilagang tulad, awit sa panlayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng buwan, ating pagsinta mo ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya ng may mga mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another awesome opportunity for learning. I'm Eric Villanueva de la Cruz from Benilde Theater Arts program, and I will be your moderator for this session. We are lucky to have with us our sign language interpreters, courtesy of Benilde's School of Deaf Education and Applied Studies. We have Ms. Claire Domingo and Ms. Catherine Joy Villarreal joining us. We thank you for joining us today and spending your time to learn and share your thoughts with us. I'm joining this session from Mandaluyong City, and I would like to invite you to say hello and tell us where you are joining us from by typing on the Facebook comment box. Please note that we have at least a 20-second delay as we are broadcasting live from Zoom to this Facebook stream. Right now, we continue to navigate this unprecedented time. And so far, the only thing certain is the uncertainty of our situation. As we transition into the new realities brought about by the pandemic, more than ever, artists are needed to imagine, realize, and manifest new visions for the future. And so we designed this webinar series for you. Artists, students, enthusiasts, or anyone who might find our sessions helpful and encouraging during this difficult period, whatever stage of coping or recovery you might find yourselves in. The important thing is that we be together, which is the title of this webinar series. Now, just a bit of information about the webinar series. Be Together is organized by the Theater Arts program under the School of Design and Arts of the De La Salle College of St. Benilde. This webinar series is the first of many offerings of the Benilde Theater series, an interdisciplinary platform for practitioners, educators, and researchers, both locally and internationally, to share their significant experiences and studies in the field related to theater and the performing arts. In its first season, Be Together convenes Benildeans, friends, and partners in the field of theater and related disciplines in the spirit of mutual goodwill and cooperation. It also aims for the exchange of significant experiences and learnings in responding to the current crisis and provide an opportunity to discuss and listen to valuable insights and strategies in shaping a meaningful future for the industry. The webinar series is divided into 3 strands. To Get Here, which facilitates reflections, learning points, and realizations on current mobility and platform restrictions. To Get There, which examines new strategies and approaches in producing and creating productions geared towards sustainability and promotion of our practice. And Together, which looks into viable ways and means to help the performing arts community during the pandemic. Now, we acknowledge that screen fatigue is real, so we encourage you to go see the webinar sessions that you feel might be useful to you and that you'll help us by sharing the word, especially to people and groups who could benefit from our sessions. So just quickly, before I hand it over to our speakers, a few housekeeping rules. During the session, we invite you to engage with each other on the comment section of this live stream. Feel free to contribute your thoughts and ideas, or maybe even share a link or an example relating to the topic to enrich the discussion for everyone. Also, if you have questions for our speakers, please send it through the comments. Or if you want to remain anonymous in asking your question, you can send it through Facebook Messenger by directly messaging this page. We have a wonderful team managing your comments, and we will try to get through as many questions as we can during the Q&A after our speaker's presentation. More importantly, we invite you to help us improve this webinar series by completing a quick survey, which will be posted occasionally in the Facebook comment section of this live stream. We are open to suggestions for future webinar topics that might interest you. A recording of our session will be made available on our YouTube channel in the coming weeks, so please check back to this Facebook page in the coming days for the announcement. Please keep yourselves updated to our upcoming webinar sessions this week and fresh new episodes which we will be creating in the coming months based on your suggestions. And of course, while you're here, might as well like and share our page. And lastly, this webinar series is entirely online, free, and open to the public as part of Benilde's fundraising collaboration with De La Salle Philippines Kada Uno on the project BARKada Uno, Benilde Artists Rising, #Bangon Artista, an online fundraising event that seeks to assist the most vulnerable members of the arts and culture sectors. So please donate what you can. We appreciate your help. All right, that's about it. Let's go now to our 7th webinar episode, Accessibility, thinking about accessibility and inclusivity in digital projects for the performing arts. Now, since the start of the pandemic, we have been preoccupied with learning and discovering how we can transform and migrate our practice to the digital platform. And while we've heard a lot of individual artists and groups bemoaning the challenge and difficulty, we can also recognize the fact that it also presents an opportunity to reach audiences, particularly those who are deaf, hard of hearing, and visually impaired. We have to admit, more often than not, our practice in the live performing arts fail to take them into account, which is why I'm thrilled to share this particular advocacy with you. And we are lucky to have our friends and partners joining us today to help us out. So, our first speaker is a licensed professional teacher with a degree in Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Special Education, and minor in Biology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she is currently taking up her MA in Education with focus on guidance. She has started being with the deaf community since 2012 as an assistant summer class teacher for the deaf. Right now, she is with Benilde's School of Deaf Education and Applied Studies Center for Deaf Esteem and Formation as a Leadership Involvement Program Coordinator, handling various programs such as the Deaf Performing Arts, Deaf Sports Program, Deaf Festival, Duke of Edinburgh's International Award for Young People, and other institutional partnerships related to deaf access, leadership, and involvement. She's also a dedicated interpreter for various events and activities to provide access for the deaf community. Since the start of the pandemic, she has also become a full-time tech Zoom operator, full-time interpreter, and full-time coordinator. That's because everything has been full-time during this pandemic. And for our speaker, working with the deaf is more than a full-time job. It's a passion, an advocacy, and a calling. Please welcome Ms. Myra V. Andrea Faustino. Hello, Ms. Dea. All right.
Hi.
Joining Ms. Dea. Hi. All right. Joining Ms. Dea. In her younger years, she was the principal dancer for the Teatro Silencio Pilipinas, International Teatro Silencio Filipinas Incorporated, and has performed in various places in Europe, US, and Asia. Currently, she is the trainer for the Deaf Performing Arts, handling silent steps under the SDEA Center for Deaf Esteem and Formation. She's also a director/choreographer of a deaf theater company, Dula ang Tahimik ng Pilipinas. Please welcome Ms. Myra Medrana. Hello, Ms. Myra. It's wonderful to have you here. And I believe that you have a slide to present and share with us. All right, so I hand it over to you. Take it away.
Medrana. This is my name sign, and with me is Miss Dea.
Hello, this is my sign name, Dea, and it's DEA. Okay, so before we start, we would like to play a game or to have an activity with you. So I hope you're ready with your keyboards. So I will be speaking on mute, and you will have to guess the word that I will be saying. So people here in Zoom, you can also join if you want. So, all right. Here's the first word. Again. Last, one more time. Okay, let me see your answers. I can see the words kiss, bagal. What else? No correct answers yet. Okay, is there anything else? Do you want to guess? I'll say it again. Mama, no. But pretty close. Last one. Can you please share? What are the answers? Mahal, okay. So the answer is Papa, as in father, Papa. Okay. We will proceed to the next word. It's one more time. Last one. Can we see your answers? Okay, so someone said mabait. Is it mama? Any guesses? Tama? Baba? No. Okay, so the answer is babay. So I said Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay. So for the next word, I will, I'm ready. Okay. Oh, ayan, marami ng tawa. So, okay. The words are, I love you. But, in other cases, others would be reading it as, I'll leave you. Okay? I'll leave you. And that hurts, you know. You were expecting an I love you, but you heard, but the word that was uttered was, I will leave you or I'll leave you. Okay. So the last one is, one more time. Last one. Okay, project. Is it project? I'll give you a clue. It is something that's related to our topic today. Any guess? Access. Well, that is related, but that's not the word. Ability, no. Interpret, no. Accessibility. No. Okay, so here's the word. Communication. So I said communication. So clearly, I'm sorry for those who cannot see it, for our friends in RBI or our friends with who has visual impairment, but this activity is actually done for the audience or for people to be able to have the experience of how the deaf actually feels when they're trying to read the lips of those who are speaking. So again, not everyone or not all of the deaf community can read lips, and even if they can read lips, it is actually hard, or maybe approximately 70%, 80%, they will get the answers correct. But most of the time, they're just guessing the words. So now you have the feel of how it would how it would be if you were a deaf. So of course it's a whole lot thing, and Miss Myra will be here with us to share her experience about what it feels like to be deaf, and how or what are her experiences as a deaf trainer. Myra?
Yes. Myra signing now. Now, you see the slide is the word why. Maybe you'd be asking yourselves, why are we here? What would you want to know about the topic? And maybe actually you might not know or would like to know more about how performing arts can be accessible to other people besides hearing. So we have, I am a performer myself. I'm an artist. I was a apologies. All right, I wasn't on mute. So I've been teaching the deaf and the hearing. I've had experience being taught to the deaf and hearing in my younger years. I've been watching. I've been an enthusiast and a performer in the past, because I have loved to learn more about the arts. How the deaf can learn as well. The arts. I just have to manage the background noise. Secret. Miss Myra. a minute. Apologies. Okay. Sorry. Dalawang aso. Okay. For the deaf, as an advocate for the deaf and for the deaf children in education, to have them more opportunities to join in activities inside and out of school. As a performer, with experiences, showcasing our talents, using gestural communication, interpreting songs, making it very uh, visually understandable to the audience, and making the deaf understand the process as well if they are part of the performance. And yes.
What about the vibrations? For visual arts, of course, for performing arts, we need to be able to feel the vibrations, especially during performances. So for example, we use the vibrations from the floor, or we can feel the vibrations. Is it fast? Is it loud? Is it slow? So we are aware about the sounds. And also some of the deaf, they are hard of hearing, and so some would be able to hear, but the speakers or the sound sources should be near the performance, so they will be able to hear it or feel it. Also, before the performances, we read the lyrics, we read the scripts or whatever we need to review. We also memorize the steps and the actions. We use the vibrations for that. Also, we use the light. We're really sensitive about visual cues like the light. So when we see the lights, we follow the visual cues. And we're really sensitive whenever we see changes in the visuals. So this is an example of one of our performances. This is Apolinario Mabini, the Sublime Paralytic. And we are advocating for Filipino Sign Language in this poetry or performance. It's a dance performance with gestures. So we explain about the history of Mabini, and we try to express and advocate for Filipino Sign Language. We also used bamboo in this performance. What is the meaning of what is the meaning of the bamboo? It's actually a pen that we're trying to use for writing. So the pen is the bamboo is the pen that we use. So we are trying to express what we want to write through the dance. So that's how we will see the performance in that. And also we are advocating for Filipino Sign Language. So there are two members of, they are ex-members of the Silent Steps. And this performance that you can see on the picture is Ugay, sa Ugay ng Duyan. It's one of the best performances that we've had. And it's a combination of the Silent Steps and our DTP or Dulang Tahimik ng Pilipinas. And we have been supporting the STEAS and the deaf community in this activity. Also, we had the performance entitled Tandang Sora. And we went to Japan to show this performance to celebrate about heroism here in the Philippines. And we have different categories. We showed about the KKK or about the...
All right. So this one was just like 30-second performance. Wherein we showed what happened during the Japanese times. At that time when we went to Japan, apologies, we went there to perform and receive donations for the victims of Haiyan. And then we made use of materials while performing. One was the mat. The mat eventually, as a symbolism, it became the boat or the bangka, the vinta, yes, which was part of the presentation of the performance. And then the next slide, please. Next slide, please. And this one we have Brother Benilde, the musical. You're part of this performance as well. I encouraged my deaf students to apply, audition, I mean. And at first they were scared, they didn't want to, but then when they got in, they were luckily they were selected. And because actually in the story of Brother Benilde, he met a deaf person, so it was crucial that the deaf performer was in the role, took the role, and that is when he learned sign first by gesture. This Brother Benil learning sign, and then through gesture, and we had to work with the entire cast. Let them know because we have a deaf performer in the cast that if you have meetings, these are the things you need to consider. So there was a sharing of cultures, the hearing learning sign, and the deaf also learning more about the what the nitty-gritty details in theater or in performance theater. Of course, they consider themselves brothers and sisters in the process. Also, another memorable performance we had was Ding Ang Bato, Darna. They wanted to have it. That was successful that time. I'm not sure if we can have it again because that was the feedback we got, that there was a clamor for another recast or a reshow. We made the performance very inclusive. There was signing while performing because Ding, the brother of Darna, was deaf in the musica. So he was like the keeper and the protector of the heroine Darna. So during the presentation, the musical signing was happening as a form of conversation, and the reviews were that the show was wonderful, were great. This this is Ace. He's a deaf performer, a singer, signer. He loves dancing, and also he has a cochlear implant, so he can sort of feel and hear music or vibration, some sounds, and it's one of his passions. So Ace here has been a supporter of SKS and we've been inviting him to be part of our best festivals every now and then. And we have encouraged and acknowledged his talent. You could watch a bit of his performance. And he also is a lover of rap. He loves to sign and rap. Then this we had during the one of the most recent the 25th Deaf Festival, titled The Forest. This part of the show, most of my hearing friends or those the audience clamored for a retake or another performance. We had a rap presentation inside, someone singing, It's a mix of genres inside the story, the forest, where everyone is signing. And then you might ask why the title of the festival is the forest. This is about a hermit. He was trying to. He was a disciplinarian, and because many of the kids in the forest were very stubborn, and he was trying to teach values to the members of the kids in the forest, and they learn to accept, abide by the rules, and be educated along the process. So this was what we featured in our performance during the 2015 festival. And it's entitled The Forest. So it's a musical as well, with a bit of suspense and horror. And it is an end of comedy and sparse comedy. This is a performance we made in Unilab. We were invited at the silent steps of Esteas. And Unilab is an advocate of persons with disabilities, so they invited us to perform. This is me, which is a sort of an awareness and an advocacy for the audience. Maybe you could watch the clip with us. This next clip is also an excerpt from the Deaf Festival, I think, last the most recent Deaf Festival last year, because everyone was in quarantine or experiencing the pandemic, so we had to devise a way to make the Deaf Festival accessible through Zoom and Facebook. So we also had our performances, but this time was online. We had hearing children performing with us, or children of deaf adults. Their parents are deaf, so their children knowing the sign. They also performed during the Deaf Festival. Maybe you could play the clip and see.
when it falls. Pouring on me the rain it falls, when it falls. Sowing the seeds of love and hope, love and hope.
All right. Then this is the next around to the next slide. What these are what you would need um, when we consider performing with deaf artists, because of course you cannot disregard the skills that the deaf people, the deaf students, our deaf students have. Not just because we cannot hear, yeah, we cannot show our skills, our talents. We find ways. For example, if just to cue start, you could use the lights to signal that we're about to start. And that's we always make it a point that in here in school we make it inclusive. Everyone has equal opportunities, and we try to find ways to make everyone knowledge and accommodated. So then we have our what we call as deaf allies or partners, making sure that there is accessibility. For example, accessibility means like if a deaf person needs to talk to a doctor and wants to know about his own health, we can get an interpreter to be with that deaf person. Or a lawyer, if he needs legal services, then you get access to interpreting services. Eventually, these people become our allies. At first, they get exposed uh, to the different means of accessibility and what the needs of the deaf are. Then eventually, they become partners in education and legal services, including theater, even sports. We have accumulated a number of allies in the years that we worked with the students. I also have a friend, start. These are feedbacks on interpreters insets we have on TV. I I received several comments that the insets are too small. Interpreter insets are very small, especially those who have small TVs. They could hardly see the interpreters. What if they have eye problems as well? Then they can't hear. So it's a trouble. Straining your eyes just watching the interpreter while the news is happening. So we are we are benefiting a lot with the interpreter insets that we have, and the access that this becomes our voice. They become our voice. If you compare it to stage performance, we have interpreter insets as well. So the deaf get to appreciate what's happening on stage, understand and feel the music through our interpreters. So it is crucial that we have interpreters on stage as well. And if in the digital setup we have right now, captioning would also follow. And for insets, bigger insets would help a lot, so that we don't need to strain our eyes when we watch. Hopefully there will be allotments in budget production for interpreters. For example, in Zoom, sometimes we have deaf participants using just a cell phone, so it would be difficult to navigate through a cell phone finding where the interpreter is, especially if the platform is in Zoom. So it's one of the challenges. So you have to consider. And then if a deaf person who would like to participate wants to raise a question, then yes, it would take time, or maybe the interpreter might not be able to see the deaf person raising his or her hand. So we have to be like visually alert and aware that we have deaf people part of the audience watching you. Make sure that it's accessible to them as well. And yeah, that's about it. Next slide, and switching on to Miss Dea.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I just fixed. Okay, so given that, yung mga sinabi na ni Miss Myra, so we have heard ano ba yung needs ng mga deaf ngayon. So it's not just us or in the team or in the school, trying to invent things. We are actually consulted with them and, hear their side. What are these things that we need to check out in preparing our digital projects? So here I have just a summary of what I will be discussing later. So I would like to focus on materials, means of communication, working with interpreters, closed captioning, and tech rehearsals, and of course, invitation. Okay, so first, we wanted to ask, what software are you going to use? So again, having all these things in mind, yung mga sinabi ni Myra, how can it be more accessible for the deaf? So for example, is it going to be a pre-recorded video? Are you just posting it? Or are you going live? Or what are the layouts that you need so that you can choose what software you can use for that event or that project? So for us in our event, for our Deaf Festival last year, during the pandemic, well, it's still pandemic, but last year, the onset of the pandemic, we used several softwares, including YouTube. Of course, we had a YouTube. We are streaming on our Facebook pages. We also used OBS, StreamYard, and I think a lot other softwares that we've tried as well. So my question is it user friendly? Can the deaf community access this software? Because I've heard an example of an activity where they used a website. So that would be fine. I think that is really innovative. If you're going to use a website and have all these features, my question is it accessible? Do they know how to use it? Do they know where the buttons are? Do they know how to watch? Because sometimes you need to, click buttons before you can actually access. For the software apps, these are the criteria that I've been looking for the software apps based on my experience. So number one, is it user-friendly? So yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, is it user-friendly? Can it be accessed by the deaf or even other PWDs? Can they access it? Do they have an account? Do they need to put up an account or to register? Is there a fee? So those are the concerns. Number two, is the software capable of spotlighting? If it's a software where you will get the video, kung saan mo kukuhanin yung video or yung mismong presentation. So is there a spotlighting? If you're going to work with an interpreter, can you do multiple spotlighting? Or is it just one? Because if you have just one spotlighted, then the interpreter will not be focused on. So the interpreter will not be seen. Or if there's just one spotlighting, you will only see the interpreter, but not the speaker. So the deaf might be confused. Who is the one speaking? I cannot see who the speaker is. So that's important to know who the person is speaking, because the interpreters are interpreters. They are messengers, or the one who will relay the message. They're not the speaker. So the person who is speaking, of course, if it is a seminar type or a class type, or if there's a speaker and not a voiceover, we wanted both spotlighted, the speaker and the interpreter. Okay, number three, the video size. Can you change the video size? Is the video quality good? Is the rendering good? Why? Because if the video quality is good, you might want to check if your computer or the internet can actually load it. So let's say, for example, I'm using one app before. I think it's Art Steps. So I was using Art Steps. It was really nice. It was really good. But when I tried it with another computer and another internet, it's not loading. So I cannot access it. So the deaf will have frustrations on that. Why is it not loading? Also the layout. Can we fix the layout? Is it deaf or interpreting friendly? So later we will talk more about the layouts. Number 4, do you need the closed captioning? Is it live or is it pre-recorded? So if it's pre-recorded, you can attach your closed captioning or closed captions. So for example, I will just say these features. Here in Zoom, using the desktop, I haven't tried the closed captioning live. I haven't seen it here in the desktop software, but if you use the Zoom in the cell phone, it's actually working, but it's not that smooth. So do you need that? With Google Classroom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, I've tried the closed captioning, it's a bit better. So you might have to check all these things. Or if you have a closed captioner, someone who is typing live, you can also use the Zoom on the desktop. Okay, those are just example. There are closed captioning websites that you can use. You can utilize them. I think there is also a closed captioning feature on the PowerPoint. So there, Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay, next. So, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, nag-render ba siya smoothly? Let's say, for example, dito sa Zoom meeting, others will be trying to show a video using Google Drive. Naglalag yun. So, mahirap yun, lalo na pag mabigat yung file mo, naglalag siya. So, the trick that we use, we think we work, is putting the video in YouTube. So we will be uploading the YouTube file or the video file in YouTube. So it's smoother. So that's just an example. I think you can try all sorts. You can also try downloading on your desktop, see if it works. So there. Why is it important for the deaf? Because they're highly visual. If the interpreter or the video that has an inset or a video with a signing is lagging, they might miss everything. It's not the same as us hearing. When their videos are lagging, you can still hear the audio. So we can still communicate. It's still, it's still magkakatanggap-tanggap. Pwede pa. Papasa. But for the deaf, if it's lagging, it's hard. You're going to miss whatever they're trying to say, or the video, or the performance, or the project is trying to communicate. Okay, number 6, the flexibility. So for sure, there are lots of projects or theater projects, performing arts projects, or online projects or events that you will be using. So it depends. So can we go back to the slide before this? If you see these pictures on the upper right, this one is a StreamYard. We use this for the purpose of capturing the answers of the students or the audience. Why? Because for the deaf, they wanted to feel that, oh, my answers are shown, are appreciated. So we wanted to have that interface. We wanted to show comments, questions that will be appearing on our screens. If you don't need that, we can use other types. Also, the layouts in the StreamYard could be different. It depends on your needs. In some of our events, we had to use OBS because we wanted to adjust the sizes of the videos. Okay. Also, for example, again, here in Zoom, is there a spotlighting? Multiple spotlighting, multiple pinning. Why is pinning important? So yung iba kasi ayaw ng, ay dalawa yung dalawa yung nakaka-distract daw sa iba yung may naka-spotlight na interpreter, and they don't need that. So they can just pin whoever they want for their personal view. But if the deaf wants to pin another one or a multiple pinning action, they can do that. So you can also have this personal view. Can it stream? So for example, hindi naman tayo bayad ng Zoom, no? Pero we are not paid or sponsored by Zoom. But here in Zoom, we can also stream. But here's the thing with Zoom. When you stream, may mag-a-appear na ZOOM. na logo. And that's distracting. It can block the video na kailangan makita ni Dev. So, again, it depends on the type of your activity. It should be Dev friendly. Let's just have a small activity. What app or software is this? I will be pointing my arrow. I'm not sure if the arrows are seen, but okay, what is the first app on the left? Oops. Can we go back? Ayan. Okay. So the logo looks like a light blue icon with letter S. Okay, so of course it's Skype. So, you know, we have this certain familiarity. If you're familiar with the logo, it means you might be using it. The next one, the yellow one with, I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure if this is a bell or can anybody explain to me what this is? This is Snapchat. That's correct. Someone answered. It's a ghost. It's a ghost. I'm not sure. Or anong tawag doon? Yung sa Star Wars? So, hindi ko alam. So, I'm not sure what this is, but as you can see, mukhang bell or I don't know. Okay, the next one. The pink with the wave. Ayun, si Stormtrooper, yung nasa yellow. I'm not sure what that is. So, pero yung next, yung wave. Is it house party? Yeah. So there are lots of apps in here. Yeah, I haven't tried this personally. Okay, next. This one, the blue one, of course, we know that. The blue with the camera sign. Okay, pag hindi nyo pa nasagot, hindi ko na alam. So, of course, it's Zoom. The one on the lower left with the chat bubble and an electric sign or an N sign, or I haven't read about the background of this icon. So, of course, that's Messenger. It's not using it. Okay, next one is the violet with a telephone ringing. Okay, that is Viber. That's correct. Okay, how about this green one with a telephone inside the bubble or the chat or the, what do you call that? Comment bubble, message bubble. So yes, that's WeChat. And the last one. Okay, may sumagot, iPhone call. Is that iPhone? Yes, actually, that's, you can see that when your phone is ringing, the green one. Okay, so the black one, na parang may shuriken ba yung tawag? Hindi ko alam kung shuriken. Hindi ko alam. So the last one with the black is OBS. Okay. So it comes with familiarity. These apps, the deaf or the audience needs to be familiar what apps are these for them to be able to access. Of course, the deaf will not need to access the OBS if they're not the tech person. If they're the performer or if they are the audience, they might not need this. Okay, and other stuff here. Next. Okay, so which software is the best? Can you please type your answers on our Facebook page or on the comment section? What do you think is the best? I'm not sure. Can our team feed us what the answers are? Kung ano mga sinabi ng audience natin? Kalaman dami, sobrang dami pa. Okay. Which software is the best? So, okay, may nagsabi, OBS, Zoom, Messenger, OBS, Messenger. Okay, somebody answered this. Best one is the one that works for you. You got that right. Okay, that's the answer. The best one is the one that works for you. Why? Because we're all different and we embrace inclusion. We might not be comfortable using Facebook because of data privacy issues, but everybody else is using it. So it depends on your choice, on your needs. So that's great. Thank you for that. Okay. Now let's move on to the materials. Do you have your registration form? Is it accessible? Are you using words that are highfalutin? Baka dumudugo ng ilong ng mga tao. So minsan we will be putting this what do you call this, the data privacy clause. I'm not sure if may nagbabasa ba nito, or I hope nagbabasa naman lahat. But here's the thing, with the deaf community, not everyone is knowledgeable about the English text or the written language of English. So these words might be too difficult for them to understand. So what will they do? They'll just click agree and then go on with it. And then later they'll be surprised, oh, my face is shown in your video. Why? You did not inform me. Well, you signed the waiver, but they didn't understand. So what we did on our Deaf Festival last year, we had this, we are attaching videos in each text that we had in our registration form. So you just insert the video. You can do that. There are lots of videos. You can search for the instructions how to do that. Also, if you can see here in the poster part, why did we put the poster? Because they're visual learners. Even if you put their registration form for cultural show, what is the cultural show? What if we put the title blah 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 or inclusion for blah blah blah? They don't understand. They're not sure if is it the right page that I'm going to. Is this the registration form that I need to do? That I need to answer? It should be visual. So when they see this picture, okay, I'm on the right page. I'm on the right track. I'm on the right form. Okay. So it has to be simple words as much as possible. And if there is a possibility, you can include sign language videos. If not, then at least use simple words or visual pictures. Okay, this one, the payment procedure. This is one of our problems. Last year, we realized this is actually a learning process for us. That paano nga ba magbabayad? We had just one show for a fundraising event, and not everybody knew how to pay. Not everybody knew how to use online banking. It's not just for the deaf, mind you. It's for everyone that is trying to adjust in this pandemic. So we had a video. This is an example of the video that we're trying to explain to the deaf what to do or how to pay for our fundraising activity. It's really important. And also, not just this video, we are actually screen captioning the process, like the GCash. What you click, where is it located? How does it look like? Because, for example, when I text my student, can you please click the 3 dots on the upper right corner? That's easy, that's clear, right? But sometimes, just sometimes, they might try to, what is upper right corner? What is corner? So, okay, I'm trying to look for it. They might check out that the right corner is here on the video. Is it here or is it here? So the students might get confused. So what's better is you take a screenshot and you encircle where you want them to click. That's easier, not just for the deaf again, but for everyone who needs to be included or to, need an assistance. Okay. Instructions or rules, the netiquettes. For example, you wanted them to stay on mute or to have their videos closed. So some, especially bagong-bago pa lang tayo sa pandemic, people are trying to figure out, not just the deaf, again, nasan ba yun? Paano ba i-mute? Paano ba? How will I do it? Okay, here's my trick. If I'm using a new website or software, what will I do? I will hover around, try to see each image. What are those in there? I'll try to click. Don't worry, just click. Okay, there is usually a cancel button. But for the deaf, how will they know? Take a screenshot and then, post it there. So I was working with a webinar before. I was interpreting for that. So they were asking, okay na po ba tong PowerPoint namin? Sabi ko, I said yes, but can you please screenshot how it's done, because they might not know how to. So they had this dummy Zoom picture or dummy video. So that's what I did. Okay. Next, video layouts. Bago kayo magpa-interpreter, you have to consider the placing of interpreter. So, kunwari, you will be doing an animation and you will be placing the interpreter here on this part. But, natapos nyo na yung animation pero may nilagay kayong image or kaya videos or kaya important parts na nilagay kung saan supposedly you will be putting the interpreter. So later on, it will be blocked. And you don't want that. You want an equal access for the deaf, because the hearing can actually understand what's in there, but the deaf might not be able to appreciate. Okay, so you have to consider your placements. Next is the communication or the language, means of communication. How will you, if you're going to do a question and answer, saan ba sila magtatanong? Do you do it on your chat box? Some forums, ayaw nila ng di ba yung may magtatanong, biglang sisingit na may video, oops, sino to? Parang, for them, it's intrusive, and we understand that. But to make it really accessible, we wanted the deaf to actually sign, because that's their language. We cannot expect smooth written language for them because it's their second language. So kung magsusulat sila, it's either you might not be able to understand what they're trying to say, or you cannot clarify it. So, di ba, nawala ng opportunity nila to ask. Also, if you have your texts written on your screen or your video performances, what is the language that you use? Is it Filipino? Some wouldn't know what are the texts or written language in Filipino. Bakit? Kasi ang language natin educational system natin here in the Philippines, usually tinuturo lalo sa SPED school, sa public, is English. So, but then again, we cannot expect them yung mga sobrang highfalutin language. English, no. Just a simple language. But, hopefully, it's in English. Okay? Yung ibig sabihin ba, deaf, hindi marunong magtagalog? No. Some deaf, they know how to speak or to write in Tagalog because they're born hearing. Some are born hearing, nakuha nila yung Filipino language, or kaya, tinuturuan sila sa bahay. Kasi yun yung kultura. Okay. Audio settings. So this was very important. I remember one time I was interpreting for an event. Di namin naririnig kung ano yung nangyayari. So when you're using OBS, sometimes walang feed. Kung nasa Zoom ka, tapos OBS yung ginagamit mo pang stream, walang program out, or we do not see what's happening on the live that is being broadcast. So what are we gonna do? Again, di kami magicians. We cannot guess. Hindi kami din Madam Auring or Manghuhula who would actually be able to, guess ano yung sinasabi nito. So, wala kaming feed. It's important to do a feed. This is a trick that I would like to share with everyone. This is important. It's one of my frustrations as an interpreter, that I am not hearing whatever is being streamed. And, di ba parang, okay, what am I going to interpret? So this one, in this part of your OBS, there is a gear. You click that, and then click Advanced Audio Properties. And then you will see this, what do you call this? So this window will appear. Click this part, audio monitoring, and then you have to choose the options. Okay, you might want to try it yourself. I'm not here to be a tech guru for this day, but you want to check this out. Why? Because there are options. Monitor off. Hindi mo maririnig dito sa computer mo. Monitor only. Maririnig mo sa computer. Walang feed siya dun sa streaming. And then the other one is both. So, eto, pwede mo magamit kung meron kayong tech na gusto mo mag-uusap kayo dito pero hindi lumalabas dun sa out mo. So this is really important for me na kunwari gusto kong sabihin na paki ganyan, and I cannot text or cannot type. So for example, parang ito yung backstage. So if that's possible. If you do not know how to do it, just have your mics off. But it's really important to have the audio in the Zoom or kung saan man kayo nagmi-meet, nasaan yung interpreters. Kailangan ba nandun yung interpreters kapag inaayos nyo to? Actually, hindi. Kailangan nyo lang i-test kung naririnig nyo ba pag nandun kayo sa loob. Test nyo, okay, naririnig ko ba? Pag hindi ko naririnig dito sa loob, try nyong magbukas ng cellphone, mag-join din kayo sa meeting kung nalilito kayo. Join kayo, hindi mo naririnig, ibig sabihin, interpreters din nila maririnig. And also, the speaker should be clear and audible. So some, di ba, parang may choppy, parang ganun. Choppy yung boses, no, wala na internet. Or ito pa, challenges din. Kapag may twang yung speaker, so we might need a copy of the PowerPoint, like hirap manghula doon. Okay. And also the speed pala. And relax lang. Huwag tayong magmadali. So, minsan kasi sobrang nangangarag sa oras, tapos nagmamadali magsalita, tapos si interpreter, alam mo yun, parang pagod na siya, humahabol siya sa interpreting. Because it's not the same. Speaking and signing, it's not the exact same effort that you use. It's double effort. And nakakapagod siya sa interpreters. If you can see, we have two interpreters here because you cannot actually interpret for a very long time. Isa ka lang, it's detrimental to the interpreters as well. Okay, next. Matching roles and needs. Meron ka bang theater performance? Do you have roles? Do you have a guy that you need to voice over? If it's a guy, most probably you will have a guy interpreter. Hindi naman kailangan magkamukha. That's not what we need. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the voice that can actually fit him. So in this picture, we can see Bronson as our host, and Lovella on the right side is one of our hosts as well. So the one voicing for Lovella is Miss Joy. And Bronson is being voiced by Sir John. So, di ba, minamatch din yun para hindi, bakit naging lalaki si Lovella? Or, you know, that experience. So, it's a bit confusing for the deaf audience as well, na parang, why are there comments like that? Okay? Or dun sa mga hearing din, parang, sino ba ang sasalita? It's confusing. Some would actually want, I was able to talk with the deaf, sabi niya, baka pwedeng, kunwari, may hearing performer na lalaki, tapos yung sumasign, lalaki din, tapos may pangalan. So, we can, you can discuss about that, but that's not our rule yet. So, and here on the left picture, adjusting to the new normal. So, what we can see here is a picture of the presentation, and our speaker is a deaf. And this is Marieta and Sir John signing. They're both signing. Why? How is this happening? Because Marieta is actually signing in American Sign Language. Even if matagal siya nanirahan dito sa Philippines, or actually she's a Filipino, so medyo nakalimutan na niya yung ibang Filipino Sign Language. But Sir John is here to help us interpret, to translate from American Sign Language to Filipino Sign Language. So, yeah, that's possible. So, ano kailangan mo? Ang tanong, marunong ba si interpreter for American Sign Language? So that's why we got Sir John, because he knows how to do it. Also, what if your discussion or your webinar is about law or is about sciences, and then your interpreter is majoring in arts, or not that we're comparing or whatever, but magkaiba yung background ninyo. So it's hard actually to interpret something that you do not know, because it's not just translating each word, it's actually interpreting what it meant or what it means, kung paano maintindihan ni deaf. Kung ikaw, hindi mo naintindihan, it's your first time, it will be hard for you to interpret. And also, it's not just about the interpreters, but about the deaf trying to understand. So, kung puro finger spelling, it's hard. So, parang, in short, parang nag-close captions ka na lang. Okay. And just to explain as well, here in the team, you can see our team. It's not just the interpreters working for this. This is our tech team. We have Myra as the director here for our show, and our student tech, just like what we're doing here in this seminar. So we have a whole bunch of team. Okay. So this one is medyo technical, size, shape, and background. This is really important. So if you will see here, Sir John again, our interpreter is the same size of our speaker. Parehas silang nagsisign language, so it has to be big. It has to be seen. In this side, this is a Brother Benilde picture featured sa isang parang interview with the deans. So they were explaining something. There's a voice over there. And then may mga pictures. And then, if you can see, the interpreter is this big. So, pare sila ng height ng video. Pero hindi naman niya kinonsume lahat. And of course, that's the ideal that we want or the deaf wants. Okay, now let's move here to, sorry. So this one is our Lupang Hinirang video. You can see this is the main video. We wanted that to be highlighted. And this is our deaf signer, signing for Lupang Hinirang. It's a bit smaller because we wanted to emphasize this performance here. Okay, next. This one, the presentation, ito, may speaker sa taas and then an interpreter down, dun sa baba, under it, beneath it. Yan. So, sa speaker, nasa taas. Bakit sa taas si speaker? Orientation-wise, we wanted the speaker to be on top because that's the main speaker. Si interpreter ay actually should be the sidekick. So, the interpreter will be placed here. So, if this is a Zoom, you may want to rearrange your videos in that way. Kunwari, presentation, nandito si presentation. Kunwari video, this one. May ganito, video dyan, interpreter here. And then, kunwari, there are lots of speakers or panel discussion or whatsoever. So this is a good layout. What is the suggested size? They say the deaf community wanted a 1/6 of the layout. So, hatiin sa tatlo, sa 6, tapos 1/6 nun. But of course, it's not being followed. You can see in our news channels, it's not like that. But ito lang masasabi ko, just a tip. You don't need to like use the ruler and do the nitty-gritty. Just a tip for those who do not understand sign language. Try to watch on whatever gadget that you think that your audience will be watching, and you try to copy whatever they are signing. If you cannot copy exactly what they're doing, it means that it's hard to see. Okay, it's just a personal tip. That's what I'm doing. But of course, I've been with the community. You can try that tip. But of course, 1/6 is the best. Others would use 1/8, yung iba 1/9, and that's really small. Yung iba nilalagyan ng time, ng orasan dun sa taas, and it's really distracting. Maglalagay ka ng orasan or mga may flash malapit sa inset. And also background. Yung iba gusto nila ng virtual background na katulad nito. So you can look at my hands. If I'm signing, you can see that my hands are blurry. And that's hard to understand. So please do not, force your interpreters to do that. Okay. Also, if you're going to do videos, may mga background animations, tapos lalagay mo din mismo sa part ng interpreters. Baka yung animation na lang yung tignan nila. Or kaya, ang sakit sa ulo yun. Okay. Closed captions. So, again, hindi lahat ng deaf would prefer insets. Some would, or sign language insets, some would like closed captions, especially yung mga late deaf. They were born hearing, and then later on in life, they become deaf. So if that's the case, they are not well-versed in signing, so they will be benefiting with closed captions. So how is it done? If your closed captions cannot be seen, it's hard. Also, you may want to put on your closed captioning what are the sounds or the emotions of the person speaking. So for example, let me help you. Hindi ko alam paano yung voice. Let me help you. So pa-scream daw. Hindi ko na isa-scream na yun. But, you know, at least the deaf will be, the deaf who is using the closed captions will understand or will have an idea, oh, okay, so the person was shouting. Siya yung nag-shout dun sa video, okay, siya pala. O kaya, may mga nag-tweet-tweet na bird. Oh, okay, that's the sound. Okay? It doesn't mean that parang tumaas yung nota, hindi mo naman kailangan isa-isahin yung nota or yung notes. You don't need to be like that, but malay mo. Okay. Ito pala. Some would prefer if there are options to take it off. Yung closed captions, diba? YouTube, you can put it on and off. So, for example, sa Zoom, you can put it on and off. And others, you can put on and off. Yung iba, it's a pre-made video and there's a closed caption. So, is it available? It depends on how you want it. But maybe you can explore that. Also, I was talking with the deaf and she told me na, I was asking her, do you also want an on and off feature for the inset? Do you think it will help? Could be. Baka yung iba gusto hearing yung target market nila. But if that's the case, if you can turn it on and off, baka pwedeng malaki na yung inset. Diba? Parang benefit talaga sila. Okay, tech runs and consultation. So this is very important and we've had tons of tech runs just to see if it works well, if it's smooth. Say for example, this shifting of interpreters, it has to be practiced or rehearsed. Ito pa. Sa mga seminars or webinars na inattendan ko, they will have these activities. Guess the title of the song and you have deaf participants. How will they guess that? So, okay, they will try. They will try their best to guess that, you know, parang saling ket-ket. But we don't want that. We want inclusion. We want full inclusion. Guess the song. Hindi na ako nakakarinig guess the song. You can, you know, try to evaluate your activities as well. Ito pa. Bring me when I say go. Go? Okay. When I say go, may delay si interpreter. Sasabihin niya palang go, hindi sabay. Ibig kong sabihin, you are already impeding or parang being an obstruction kay Miss Myra or sa mga deaf. Na teka, hindi tayo sabay, hindi daya nun. That's not fair. All the hearing, they already know that it's go. Tapos ako, I have few seconds delay. Even if it's just few, it's still not fair. When I say go. Here's the trick. What do you do? For this, bring me when I say go. Bring me when I type go. Okay? And it's easier. Why? Because you will be able to detect kung sino ang nag-type before you say go. But when you type go, anything that's typewritten below the go word is actually kapasa sa rules mo. You have to be careful with your activities so that you know, we have this inclusion, full inclusion. So ayan, again, these are games. So we have the games. Should we use this part? Meron bang data privacy? Kailangan bang may pirmahan sila? Okay. So, this one. Do they know how to use this? Minsan may obstructing, yes. May mga obstructions biglang nag-on yung mic. They do not know. So, you might want to check or help if they can unmute themselves or mute themselves, because they are not aware if there are sounds, if they're being, if their audio is being captured, or you might want to get assistance from that. Also, you may want to include in your instructions on how to navigate the accessibility that you offered to them. And one more thing, consultation is not just consultation with the interpreters or the specialists. It is very important to have consultation with an actual deaf, because even us hearing who thinks that, yeah, mukhang maiintindihan to ng mga deaf. But when we show it to the deaf, oh, ano to? Okay, wait, I'll adjust it. So it's about being flexible. Okay. Again, nothing about us or about them without them. So if you're going to do all these things and you're not including the deaf in your planning, or even the persons with visual impairment or the PWDs in your planning or in your project, it's not about them. It shouldn't be about them. Okay, so yeah, we hope that you will be empowering them, not just watching performances or webinars. It's really important to have this. Okay, and lastly, you should invite them, because if you do not invite them, sometimes all your inclusions or accessibility features will be wasted, because let's be practical. Walang access sila sa information. Meron bang events? I don't know. May interpreters? Did you say that you have an interpreter? Hindi mo sinabi, hindi mo emphasize. It's a wasted opportunity for them. If you invite or try to, spread the news to the deaf community, parang ano yan, biglang spread na yan. So, if you want to capture them, invite them, include them, involve them. Or else, ayan, walang a-attend. Okay. So with that said, please like our page, the LSCSB Deaf Festival, and SDS Volunteers on Facebook. And also please support Benilde's fundraising collaboration with DLSP Kada Uno and BARKada Uno, Benilde Artists Rising, #Bangon Artista. And also special thanks to our interpreters, especially to Miss Claire and Miss Joy, and also the interpreting team, Sir John, our Deaf Festival committee who worked with me in all of these things. They are the ones who supported me in how to try to figure these things out. Also, my SDEA, CDEF, family and friends, thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Dea, Ms. Myra, and of course our interpreters, also Ms. Claire and Ms. Joy. Thank you, thank you. Nothing about them without them. That's a really good. That's a really good phrase not to remember. We'll see you later for the Q&A. All right, thank you very much. Okay, now let's go on to our second speaker. She's currently the head of the admin department of Resources for the Blind Incorporated, or RBI. Aside from being the RBI admin head, she also works as a technology specialist and is responsible for giving training to students with visual impairment, teachers, librarians, government and non-government workers on the use and advantage of assistive technology and production of accessible audiobooks for persons with visual impairment. She graduated with a degree of science, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration at the Philippine School of Business Administration in Manila. Encouraged by her former director to undergo training in assistive technology, increased her interest in computers and technology, specifically in assistive technology for persons with visual impairment. She's inspired daily by her OFW husband and 2 children who love their work, respectively. Please welcome Miss Marieta Francisca Regala.
Okay, good afternoon. Afternoon.
Hello, Miss Marieta.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sir Eric. It's my pleasure as well hearing from what Miss Dea discussed a while ago. It's different for persons with visual impairment because there's really not much good practices yet with regards to arts for persons with blindness and low vision in the Philippines. So what I will be, the videos that I will be showing are excerpts from international arena. So because I can't find any from the Philippines. Okay, so I may start now. Thank you.
Okay, I hand it
Eric.
over to you. Yes, take it away.
Okay, and my is somebody showing my, okay, thank you. So I entitled this presentation, Arts Beyond Our Sight. This includes us. Sight is not only important for us, but sight per se for persons with vision. Okay, I'll be discussing about facts about visual impairment. What is accessibility, principles of accessibility, the difference between accessibility, usability, and inclusivity, and why is accessibility important, bars to accessibility, and why make materials or activities accessible to persons with visual impairment, and how do we welcome patrons with disability. Okay, may I talk a little bit about our office? We are Resources for the Blind. It was established or incorporated in 1988, and our programs include education, provision of accessible reading materials. We also have rehabilitation, eye care, social and skills training. And of course, our clients are those with persons with visual impairment, those who are blind and low vision, as well as those who are blind but with other disability or disabilities. And they are, we call them multi-handicap blind or multi-handicap low vision. We have 3 offices. Our head office is in Quezon City, and we have 2 branches, one in Cebu City and one in Davao City. Our branches for the Cebu office is aimed, ang aim niya po is to cater to clients from the Visayan region, at ganon din dun sa Davao for the Mindanao area. Because our office in Manila will find it hard to reach out to those in the Visayas and Mindanao provinces or region to serve them immediately or serve their needs immediately. That's why we came with the 2 branches. Okay, our vision is for all Filipinos who are visually impaired to reach their fullest potential in life and service that God has for them. So our vision is to design and implement programs that will enable those with visual impairment to understand and reach their God-given potential in life and service. And we also aim to provide the services, training, and else needed by persons with visual impairment to attain independence and become useful members of society. Okay, so before I start with the accessibility topic, may I inform you that there are 39 million people in the world who are blind, both eyes. 285 are suffering from moderate and severe vision impairment. That statistics was in 2010, and I still find no updated data for persons with visual impairment globally. In the Philippines, according to DOA, Department of Health, 2017 statistics, there are more than 300,000 who are totally blind, both eyes, and there are 2 million, more than 2 million who are low vision in both eyes. Okay, so about arts. We say that art is created for our eyes. That's true because we can just post paintings and we see through our eyes. And our emotion and encourage discussion or participation. So it's our sight that dictates our brain to interpret what our eyes see. But what happens when we lose our sight? What will art be useless for us or for those with visual impairment? No, because art can be understood given the proper tools, given the assistance or support of other people. And that's where accessibility comes in. Accessibility makes art beneficial, not everyone, just for persons with visual impairment. Okay, what is accessibility? Accessibility is creating equal and equitable opportunities to participate in society and making public resources or any resources available to people, especially with disability, by removing barriers to housing, healthcare, employment, education, and any material or material things that the sighted are able to access. Next slide, please. Another definition of accessibility is it allows, or accessibility is capable of allowing persons with disability to reach, hear, use, or see what they want to see, to access. And the usability of a product, service, environment, or facility by people with the widest range of capabilities. So accessibility empowers, that's just like what Ms. Adea said a while ago. It has a lot of importance to persons with disability. Requirement for accessibility. Accessibility requires making changes to suit people of all disabilities and those with additional needs. For persons who are blind or low vision, for deaf, ortho, and those with other disabilities. So this only means that accessibility is the equalizer using technology for persons with disabilities to make use of what the remaining senses have or is capable to make use of. Okay, next slide, please. Another requirement for accessibility is the first two are for the deaf. I'll just mention the audio description, the touch tour, relaxed performances, and accessible seating. Okay, these are the requirement for an environment or material to be useful for persons with visual impairment. These are durations for accessibility. Accessibility are not rules, but through thoughtful design, it's making a lot of difference in the life of person with disability. Accessibility is not disability, but allowing somebody who is visually impaired or person with visual impairment to experience what sighted experience. Accessibility is not technology, but it's about the people who are making use of this accessibility. Okay, may I show? No, not the slide yet. Not yet. Okay. These are the principles of accessibility. This not only applies to arts, but to all, including website and information that we create for online or even in our library or wherever. So these are, it's called the POUR, Principles of Functional Accessibility, perceivable, which means that any information or material or art that is brought out, the user can identify the contents, can and the elements using his senses. Especially for persons with visual impairment, the sight is gone, so he or she will be able to use his touch or his hearing. Operable, of course, and information or art can only be appreciated if the user is able to use controls, buttons, navigations, and other necessary interactive elements. For persons who use the computer through the keyboard and voice commands, he or she is able to use the computer and access whatever the content of the computer is, or he or she is able to access the internet. Okay, accessibility needs understanding, or it should be understandable, which means that users should be able to comprehend the content, learn from it, and remember how to use the interface. Okay, the next one is robust. Users should be able to use whatever technology to access, example, the website, documents, multimedia, arts, and other formats. An example is for a website that can be opened in any search engine. So if I mention, if a website can be opened in Google search engine, it should be opened also in Mozilla Firefox. So using any search engine, a website should be accessible. Okay, may I share to you the differences between accessibility, usability, and inclusivity. For accessibility, website tools, technologies should be designed and developed so that people with disabilities can use them. Usability, they should be effective, efficient, and should satisfy the need or need of persons with visual impairment or any user, and can achieve the specific tasks that they should perform. And this includes user experience design. Inclusivity means diversity. This ensures the involvement of everyone. Inclusivity is also called the universal design and design for all. Okay, accessibility versus usability. In its simplest term, accessibility focuses on persons or people with disability, but usability is on the research and practice and does not consider the needs of persons with disability. While accessibility versus inclusivity, accessibility is the ability of the system or environment to accommodate the needs and preferences of persons with disability, or especially those with visual impairment. While inclusivity provides a spectrum of tools and features that persons with visual impairment or blind can choose from to fit his or her requirements in a given context. Okay, why is accessibility important? It was mentioned a while ago that during the opening, that accessibility allows person with visual with disability to be engaged in whatever activity there is. But with accessibility, other importance of accessibility is it allows a person to have access to education, employment, business, healthcare, recreation, and others. A blind child going to school without the support of the teacher or the parents will not be feasible. That's another meaning of accessibility. Same with employment. same with business, healthcare, recreation. If these are not accessible, the tendency is persons with visual impairment or those who are blind will only sit at home, and life will be meaningless to them. Accessibility also allows people with disabilities to participate actively and improve their life experience. So accessibility is really important. It's good that St. Benilde is into this, allowing their students who are with disability to experience this. Accessibility is necessary for people of all disabilities, not just persons with disability. Because once we are born and grow, the objective is to have our full potential, to obtain independence and become useful members of society. Because if not, people will just disregard us or ignore us. Okay. Of course, there are barriers to accessibility, and one is attitudinal. Attitude of many people towards those with disability. There are those who are ignored because people think that they cannot do anything and they are not of importance. So attitude is really a big impact for persons with disability. Information and communication. It was explained a while ago by Ms. Dea about sign language. There are different, the same with persons with disability. If a person cannot understand the information, it's useless for a person with a visual impairment. Technology as well. While technology is an equalizer, but technology also can serve as a barrier to accessibility for persons with visual impairment, especially the rapid changes in technology. Without the training for the new technology or updates of technology, it will be useless for especially for students who are blind or with visual impairment. Organizational barriers. There are policies, there are practices or procedures that discriminate persons with disability. And of course, the architectural and physical design, although some may be good for those with orthopedic disability, but this also applies to persons with visual impairment, especially when we make changes in a certain place without informing the person who is blind. Baka mabunggo sila, ganun, if we don't orient them in the place that they are used to. And another accessibility barrier is perception of lower profitability. This is being experienced right now, especially for providing the accessible books for students. Sorry to say that there are publishers who ask that ilan ba ang blind? Ilan na makikinabang? So this is really a big barrier to persons or especially students with disability. For businesses who only think how much they can profit from if they they only think of their profit and they don't think of the importance that they can give to persons with disability or persons with visual impairment. Okay, let's now go to accessibility and arts, which is the focus of this training of this webinar. Let's define digital accessibility. Digital accessibility levels up the playing field for persons with disability and allow productivity and inclusion through participation in educational, economic, political, and other areas of their life. So it's the digital accessibility that grows the interest of persons with visual impairment. For persons with visual impairment, the way, like for them to use the computer, they have a screen reader that is installed in the computer, and this reads out whatever they type on their keyboard. So they rely on the audio. They rely on not what they see, but on whatever they hear. Okay, for digital arts, many blind people and those with low vision have experienced art through audio descriptions, real-time description, tactile, and 3D. So these are the ways that persons with visual impairment are able to appreciate digital arts. 3D printing of fine art. So if I may share that the Ayala Museum and the Metropolitan Museum. This is the project of, shout out to Miss Annette Esparas. She's with the Rotary Club of San Juan del Monte. They have, or she, through her leadership, she was able to help set up a corner at the Metropolitan Museum that the blind can appreciate arts. For 3D printing of fine art, it creates arts, or it displays the art, and the person with visual impairment touches it. So the word "do not touch" for artworks doesn't apply to this, because this 3D printing allows the blind to see where is the head of a person or parts of his body. So creating touchable versions of art, especially famous pieces, historic paintings, and modern photography. And some will put sensor, which activates the audio description of the work as a person feels around the picture or around the piece of art. Okay, so that's the 3D printing. There's a machine that makes this. It is the 3D printer. Although it's expensive, but it really brings out the beauty of art to the eyes or to the touch of person with visual impairment or blind. Another type of art is incorporating Braille into visual art, which means that like if there is a photo or image, a Braille is put beside it to describe what the art is. So incorporating Braille into a visual art. So again, the person with visual impairment touches the picture and reads the Braille transcription of that picture. This innovative form of interactive art allows everyone to experience the same art in a different way, yet equally powerful. Next is the extra textured paintings. For paintings, nag-layer po yung drawings. And this allows person with visual impairment to differentiate the texture, or for him to analyze what the texture is. Painting with texture is simple, low-tech way to bring art to those who can't experience it through sight, but they can experience it through touch. Another is tactile art, and this is read or analyzed by persons with visual impairment, again, through touch. using screws of different heights, like in the picture, example in the picture. The artist creates topographic-like portraits by inserting screws into a wooden boards, making images with the meticulous gaps and grooves, and as a result, his work has mass appeal for blind people and those with low vision. So still in touch. Tactile is for touch. Okay, so the blind uses his fingers and visualize, quote unquote, what the picture is or what the art. Tactile tours of museums and galleries. I mentioned a while ago the Metropolitan Museum has a corner for tactile materials. Museums have begun using touch to give those without vision or those with visual impairment to the ability to experience art, because there's no other way for us to let the blind or low vision appreciate art, but to allow them to touch our art. Several museums and galleries have had tactile tours, just like the Ayala Museum as well, which serve as ways for blind people and people who are low vision to touch replicas of famous artworks. This video will allow us to understand how digital art is done.
Super, das ist ja auch abgebildet. Genau, sehen Sie diese, wirklich, es sind so viele Details.
Der Kuss war bislang mein schwierigstes Exponat und es galt eben hier speziell einen guten Trade-off zu finden, der eben zum einen das Plastische wirklich plastisch herausarbeitet und die flach wirkenden Teile trotzdem eher flach im Relief darzustellen.
Und dann denke ich mir gleich, wahrscheinlich glänzt das auch. Ich sehe das nicht, aber ich denke mir das dazu. Ja, also die Fantasie wird ganz schön angeregt.
Okay, so the blind person who was visualizing, quote unquote, the image said that she cannot see it, but she can imagine.
It's going to be out the door. Let's
So
go.
that's what.
Up the stairs or out
next
the door.
slide, please.
I read off.
That's what.
To choose between going out the door or
Inclusive
staying
art is.
inside.
Yes, and can I add that I've
Okay, so the next topic is why make your art accessible? Okay, so there are four
violence in it.
reasons.
because a lot of
The
pretend
first,
violence
5
is
reasons.
built out of an exaggerated version.
Okay, the artist or the creator's perspective, personal perspective is institutional perspective, economic perspective, and legal perspective.
Do you stay and fight them,
Next
or
slide,
do you
please.
try to lure them out the door and take your chances outside?
You try to lure them out of the house, and then you go.
For
get
an
the police.
artist's
The
perspective,
next one is John Wick, which your movie is compared
Kaya
to
niya
often. You're home alone after your dog has been killed. The same men who broke in before killed your dog are back. They're entering from the first floor. You're at the top. You have to
video,
fight your
please.
way down. Do you?
for an
Wait a second, Mark,
artist's
does this house have
perspective,
windows in
the
it?
visual
It does have
impairment
windows.
may have affected the artist's work. It drives the person with disability to do something out of his or her situation. If I may tell you, the screen readers that are available right now, the software that the blind use to access their computer, most of them are made by persons with blindness. just because there's no one who does the software for them to be able to use the computer, they themselves use it. And the one who made the Braille, who is Louis Braille, because he got blind and there's no way for him to write and read Braille, so he created Braille and he named it after him, or maybe somebody named it after him. That's how Braille started. Although it was not perfect during that time, as years went by, the improved version was made. Okay, so that's the artist perspective, because no one does it. That's why they do it themselves. But I'm sure not with arts or performance arts, because somebody has to do it. Okay, so for personal perspective, this is the gatekeeper versus the gate opener. So gatekeeper means they close the gate and there's no opportunity is given to them, against those who open the gate and gives opportunity for those who need it. Because of disability, person with disability are dictated of what they cannot do. So this is the dilemma of person with visual impairment. They are being forced to do what they cannot do. But of course, for those who will try to do something and succeed, it will be a joy for them. And also, can prove that they can do something. So for a person who is a dreamer maybe, or who wants to prove that they can do something, he or she will do something to impress people. Okay, so that's the personal slide, please. Okay, there's the institutional perspective. So disability market is not only for those who love arts. So we are talking about arts now. Art should be accessible for anyone who comes through the door, who wants to see their art. So we should allow anybody or any person who wants to see our arts, but we have to make it accessible. We have to allow them to understand what that art is, okay? So, and also it's an opportunity to grow our audience or your audience, which means that more there are more people who will patronize your art or your work, and to serve better, or to better serve the community. And this will enact values of inclusivity and equality. Okay, there's a video again for this. Please show. No. Okay, you
Stop
just show.
113. This is Marcel Duchamp's painting titled Nude Descending a Staircase. It's the work most often mentioned when people refer to the 1913 Armory show. Visitors and critics were confused by what they saw and incensed that it was called art. One reviewer wrote, quote, "There is no nude and no stairway. Why under heaven should an artist want to paint such an object, and why should such a performance be called art?" Another critic said it looked like, quote, "an explosion in a shingle factory." Duchamp's nude is a large oil painting on canvas, a vertical rectangle 3 feet wide and almost 5 feet tall, so the figure in it is almost life-size. In essence, it's an abstracted human figure walking from left to right down a flight of 3 or 4 wooden steps. Here's a quick audio interpretation of the painting. The human walking down the steps is not the least bit realistic. The body is made up of black lines and flat shapes, like wooden slats, a mix of pale beige and green. These shapes represent the head, torso, arms, and legs. If there was one of these human figures, people might not have been confused, but Duchamp painted many versions of this figure moving down the steps and overlapped them. So if we take the audio version of the single pass down the steps and overlap it many times, the painting is more like this. In a speech many years, Stop 113. This is Marcel Duchamp's painting titled Nude Descending a Staircase. It's the work.
So art can be interpreted in many ways. With that example, one person interprets it differently from the others. So let's give them the freedom to give the interpretation that they want. Okay, so another perspective is economic. So right now, jobs are becoming scarce. Employment is scarce as well. So income is scarce because of that loss of job. And arts can contribute to jobs and growth. For people who are who love arts, this can be a source of income. And this won't include or does not include persons with disability or persons with visual impairment or blind. I know the blind person who is into sculpture. So he is a good sculptor. So he made it as his source of income, his being a sculptor. So arts can be a source of income. Involving in arts, like performing arts, art creator, or other form of arts can be a source of income. So that's what that means. And in the United States, study showed that arts generated a 250 billion in revenue. That's per year, creating 29.5 million jobs worldwide. So art can be really a good income generating work. The industry or the art industry is also a potentially important contributor to social cohesion and nation building through the promotion of intercultural dialogue, understanding, and collaboration. So through arts, it can be a source of unity for persons who are into war, maybe. So, and it can contribute to nation building. Legal perspective. So in the Philippines, we have laws or policies that shows that the blind or persons with low vision or persons with disability, for that matter, are supported by laws as well. Okay, so Magna Carta, the disabled, which is the RA 727, Chapter 3, Section 35, Item C, H, and I, and this supports the accessibility of arts, movies, theaters. And another law is the UNCRPD accessibility, specifically Article 9, which enables persons with disability to live independently and participate fully in all aspects of life. And another article in UNCRPD is the participation in cultural life, recreation, leisure, and sport. But disregarding or setting aside legal perspective, if we really want to help persons with disability, these laws can be disregarded, and we just need to do our part for them to be able to participate in the community or in our society and allow them to contribute in whatever way they can. Okay, how do blind appreciate arts? Okay, I mentioned a while ago that they appreciate arts through touch. They try to visualize the artwork through their touch. Blind see through their brains. not their eyes, because of course they lose their eyes, but it's through their eyes and no, through their touch, and this touch will send a message to their brain, and it's their brain which will interpret what is saw through their touch. Artworks prove that sight is not essential to the creation or enjoyment of art. People without sight can have an equally rich art experience. So let's just allow them to appreciate art. Okay. Next slide, please. What is our responsibility to providing accessibility for persons with visual impairment, with low vision, or persons with disability as a whole? Let's make people aware about the value of accessible art. At the same time, create art where it can be experienced. So it is useless that there is art if we will not allow them to see themselves through their touch or allow them to experience what that art is. We should make our art accessible. We explore styles and practices to create accessible art. And there are many ways that can be done to make art accessible. An example of this is the video that will be shown.
This is a pretty good size, you know, you can sort of feel around it. Now her nose is kind of long. I guess hers was like that. But it's the expression that's the most mysterious here. It's a little bit enigmatic and yeah, she wasn't exactly a classical beauty. Oh, my fingers are excited, like.
Are you gonna give someone else a turn?
Oh yeah, wait until you feel this.
Imagine not knowing what Mona Lisa's smile looks like, or Van Gogh's sunflowers. Imagine you heard people talking about them and knew they existed, but could never experience them for yourself. For the millions of people who are blind, that's a reality. Unseen art is taking two-dimensional masterworks of visual art and bringing them to the realm of touch. We're involving people all over the world to recreate classical art paintings in 3D so that they can be felt. And the best part is, the printable 3D models are shared for free, so the art can be printed and experienced anywhere in the world where there's a 3D printer. We want to inspire and bring together the talents of 3D makers, artists, and blind and visually impaired people worldwide. Most of all, it's about sharing something amazing. With your help, we'll be able to launch major gallery shows, create the Unseen Art platform where 3D and art enthusiasts can contribute their ideas, and make great art more accessible than ever. Making art accessible to everyone is our passion and our goal. If you've ever been touched by great works of art, why not let art touch someone new?
Okay, so the guy mentioned that they share their art, so that we are maybe one of those who make use of the art or their design, because we have 3D printers in the office. We also make 3D materials, but making you cannot just make a 3D material. You have to design first, and we get designs from these people, and then that's what we print in our 3D printer. So really, we are one of those who benefit from what he says, that they share their material or design. Okay, why a need for accessibility of performing arts? I think, can you? So performing arts is an important cultural and social experience. So this is one of the reasons why performing art should be made accessible. It also allows the community to come together and build relationships. So if a person just or person with visual impairment just stays at home. Yeah, but if he is also allowed to go to a theater or in a movie or any performing arts, he or she will be able to tell a story as well. So it's important that we include accessible, or we make our performing arts accessible so that those with disability can also participate. And also it presents topics that incite conversations and thoughts, especially right now. Persons with visual impairment or blind are into technology as well. So each of them have their Facebook account or Messenger, and they share stories. Accessibility of performing arts also provides an escape for everyday life. They can laugh there, they can cry, and do other range of emotions. So it's one way to help them release whatever their emotion is at that moment when they were in the movie, or when they were viewing or went to a theater. Okay, having an accessible theater can give people with disability the chance to experience these benefits too, and bring their unique voices to share to the public, okay, or to their friends. So accessible performing arts really give a unique experience as well to persons with blindness or low vision, because they can have their story to tell after they are brought to a theater, or if they saw a picture with which was made accessible. Okay, those involved in production, it is suggested that put yourselves in the place of patrons who have disability. So include persons with disability in the project. There are actors with disability, and it was also mentioned a while ago, nothing about them without them. Or if they say this, personally, nothing about us without us. So since theater is such a visual type of entertainment, we might think that people who are blind or visually impaired would not be able to enjoy or participate. No. Let include them in the performance, or in your group, in your team, because maybe they can say what or they can contribute in the success of your project. Okay, let's see the video so to further explain to you what this is. Okay, so these are the types of accessible performances. So this is with regards to performance arts or a theater or movie maybe. Okay, one way to make a performance art accessible is through audio description or audio described performance. Blind or low vision cannot see the set, costume, action, but they can enjoy the storyline. So because they rely solely on their hearing or the audio of the story. Blind and partially sighted theater goers are provided with the live verbal commentary on the visual elements of a production broadcast through a receiver. There should be. And then the describer occasionally speaks between the lines to describe the entrances, exits, actions, stage layout, the props, the characters, and costumes to people who cannot see them. So somebody speaks behind the scenes actions, and because what we hear only when we view movies is the voice of the actor and actresses, but let's not include or let's not exclude the behind the scenes for the visually impaired or those with blindness to appreciate fully what the performance or what the movie is. In the US, there is no charge by the theater to patrons who use their audio description material. Okay, next slide. So this is the example of the the gadget or device that the person with visual impairment or blind is given whenever he or she enters the movie or the theater. It's an on and off switch with volume control, a jack for a headset. And the headset vary in style, and it's preferable maybe if the blind has or his her own, or bring his or her own headset or earphone, especially now that we should limit our touch because of the COVID-19. Okay, let's see what the video is, please.
By Picasso Pro.
Okay. It's okay, continue playing.
4 artists stand looking in different directions. 5th artist crouches, head bowed at downstage center. Crouching artist heaves shoulders, slowly tries to stand, goes back down, repeats. Stands, leans on artist behind her. Transition. 5 artists move to the music at different speeds. 3 freeze, sitting or standing. A woman in brown avoids another's white cane. Cane user taps it at woman's bare feet. Woman in brown leaps over cane. Woman in brown catches cane. Stylized tug of war. Woman in brown spins the cane user in wide arcs from one side of stage to the other. They stare at each other. Woman in brown places tip of cane on floor. They straighten up and look at each other. Woman with cane looks down. Transition. 3 artists crawl on hands and knees. Woman in hoodie lies on floor beside them. 2 artists stand behind them, beside woman in hoodie's wheelchair. Crawling artists lie in tight row on stomachs, exchange looks. Woman in hoodie uses her arms to pull herself across them. The trio log rolls in unison, conveying the woman across their bodies. She arrives to the other side, lays beside them. She sits up. The 4 artists hold hands. They rock together to sit up. Transition. 10 artists, most standing. A male artist leans in front of wheelchair user. Touches his own shoulder.
Okay, you can stop that now. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's an example of audio describe performance. The same with the movies. There's also the audio descriptive movies. Okay, so to wrap it up, as my conclusion and recommendation, accessibility should be part of our everyday practice and not just a special event or project. Remember, making our work, events, or project is accessible, or projects accessible goes beyond offering accessible and specialized performances. Not every work of art can be made accessible in the same way for everyone. A blind person is unlikely to have the same experience of a work of visual art as a sighted person, but it is possible to provide ways for all people to have a personal experience with what we offer to them. So we need to respond, especially for persons with visual impairment, as I said in my opening, that it's rare. It's not practiced yet in the Philippines. So let's be, let's, or let the change begin in us. Let's be an instrument of change. Alone, maybe you alone, Saint Benil, cannot do it, or you can do a little, as what Helen Keller said. Alone, one can do so little, but together we can do so much. So united and accessible art, accessible works in the Philippines. So someday, persons with blindness, persons with low vision, and those with other disability can enjoy the art we the blind enjoy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Mayet. Please stay with us for a short Q&A. We now call back our speakers from Ms. Deas, Ms. Dea, and Ms. Myra. So now we open the session for some questions from our audience. We have a time for about 2 to 3 questions. Please send it through the comment section of this live stream, or if you want to remain anonymous in asking your questions, you can send it through the Facebook Messenger by directly messaging this page. We have a wonderful team of Jello, Kate, Jadine, Rafa, and Anne managing your comments on social media. And on Zoom, I have with me the amazing team of Glenn, Shema, Meryl, Jerry, and Rachel. We will try to get through as many questions as we can. But if we run out of time, we encourage you to continue the conversation online through various social media channels. You can tag our speakers using the social media handles that they have provided. And please don't forget to use the hashtag beta so that others can also learn from your thoughts. All right, so we have a question from Anne Domingo. What questions or actions do the deaf community consider to be rude, and how can we be more respectful for those who have disabilities?
Take Miss Myra speaking. If you take the disability or deaf perspective, sometimes it's not the same. For dancers, for example, if deaf people are watching a performance, uh, these actions should mean something, but sometimes you don't get it unless someone interprets it or there is someone conveying the meaning. Same thing when it's deaf people performing, they're not just dancing, but they're also expressing something, sending a message. Probably, maybe looking at from a hearing's perspective, what are they doing? But there is actually a meaning, so we just have to bridge the language, I guess. People, when deaf people converse, some would think that these guys are like exaggerating, maybe they're crazy. But no, I guess we must have maybe must be the same page, understand what each other is trying to say, and be more open. Um, like for the performance we had on Mabini or Apollinario Mabini, our hero, um, we tried to perform in his context. Uh, from his experience using the bamboo, what I did with my team before, when doing the choreography, um, we had a hearing performer with us, with the deaf dancers, and it's also possible. Not just because we're deaf performers, we cannot dance with hearing or other disabilities. We're inclusive, so that's what we did with Mabini. Mabini was an amputee, as we all know, and then the deaf dancer supported him in his movements. But while he's actually dancing, he danced without the wheelchair. So he different figures rolling on the floor, uh, dance movements, even without to say equal or same limbs. So there's no discrimination. Everyone is welcome. Everyone can perform. And
Okay.
then I think I'm not sure. There was a question also, a comment.
Uh,
Sorry.
okay. All
Alright,
right.
sorry.
So I guess the same question can apply to. I think the question can apply also to people who are visually impaired or blind. What are
Yeah.
questions or actions that can be
If I
considered
can
as rude?
share, yeah, sorry, if I can share an incident that the blind usually experience. Akala nila ang blind deaf din. Eh, di ba usually ang blind may guide? Ang kinakausap yung guide. So, the rule is directly kausapin yung blind. Mga ganun. So, it's parang nakakaawa ang lagay ng blind pag mga ganun. So, the blind can speak unless may iba naman pagka may deaf blind. Pero pag nakita mo yung blind na may cane sa labas na independent siya, you can talk to him directly. Yun, rude yun.
Okay.
I can agree, no, Sir Eric, no, because it happened the same way happened with us. I was with Miss Lovella and on an elevator, and they were actually talking in front of us without knowing that I am hearing what they're talking about us. So, I was actually interpreting what they are talking about us. So that's rude. Sometimes you didn't know that these deaf individuals are with hearing individuals as well. And also, just to add lang din, we might be sensitive about how we address them, how we talk about them, especially when we're talking in front of them, or maybe using words to identify them, like siya, not addressing as a person but as an object sometimes.
Yeah.
And even actually in the deaf community, they would say that they didn't want to be called pipe, pipi, or mute in English, or they didn't want to be called deaf and dumb. That's a usual term that I hear. Deaf and dumb, they're not dumb.
Yeah.
So there.
Okay. And we have another question, an earlier one from Rafael Adasa. Out of ignorance, maybe, but how do deaf express emotions through sign language? In context, in theater performance, actors use their tones, voices to express emotions.
Yes, Myra speaking, of course. Yeah, that's what hearing performers do. They use their tone, use the volume of the voices, exaggerate. But for us deaf people, when you mean bigger things, we have bigger emotions, we have bigger signs, bigger expressions, emphasize, exaggerate the face basically, and then the rest of the body, so everyone can get what we're actually meaning. Mm. But there are times also na hindi klaro yung sign na ginagawa. Minsan galit na, tapos, iba naman yung itsura niya. It doesn't show on the face or in the body movement. So it has to be clear for us. If you're sad, then you show us sad. We show sad. So because the deaf are very visual, and we get by your body cues, we understand things through your body cues or body signals. So it's not always sign. It could be body movements, gestures, the whole collage. So it's the entire body working together, face actions for you to get the message that we're trying to send.
Okay.
And also, I just to share an experience lang saglit, a bit. We worked with a blind performer. Uh, she was blind. Yes, she's a girl. She was with us alongside our amputee or person with a disability performing with us. So, no times po na the dancers, naiwan siya. Naiwan yung blind na performer. The teacher taught us na no, you have to be together. Ganun din yan. If you leave this blind performer with you, you have to be sensitive, connect, and include her in the performance so she can react. So it's the same thing. If you are not appreciated or recognized, diba, you feel hurt, you feel left out. So that we don't want that to happen to us, so let's not do it to others. So yun po
Yeah.
yung nangyari sa amin. We learned to work with the different disabilities sa training namin. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience. At first, nahiya po yung mga deaf na, ay, oo nga pala. But then eventually, it was a lesson learning experience. Sa umpisa po na nalungkot po sila. Naiwan po kasi mag-isa yung blind performer to. Nakalimutan nila. Yeah, yes, just
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah, so I guess it's really about sensitivity as well. It's a good practice of sensitivity. All right, we have time for just one last question. So I think what we noticed or what we realized throughout the entire presentation is that the speakers have gone beyond just talking about accessibility online, but also showing that people who have disabilities, hard of hearing, deaf, visually impaired, or blind, can actually be integrated and be part of the projects themselves. And I hope there's more opportunity actually for the visually impaired to be considered and to be part of these projects. But also one phrase that stuck to me is nothing about us without us, or nothing about them without them. So my question is now, there are certain groups, there are certain individuals who create projects about them without including them. So what can you say about these groups? What can you probably advise them? And it's probably it's not just applicable to the deaf, hard of hearing, and to the blind, but also to other disabilities. What is your advice for them? We can start with Miss Dea.
For me, it's a good start. I will not say that, no, don't do it. No, it's a good start because they are helping the deaf to be advocated. But when you do not consult, you might give a false information, or you might misinform people about the deaf. So your awareness goal can be, you're not hitting the goal. So my advice to them is, before you actually start the project, you have to consider, who are these people? You have to know them. Before, when I started with the deaf community, I always thought that it's going to be easy. Oh, I wanted this, I really want to learn the sign language. I was so excited. But when I got in the community, it was a struggle. But if you will remember that on the start of our presentation, we asked the question, why? Because that is the main thing that will pull you back to whatever you wanted, or the reason why you are entering or wanted to give opportunity for this for the PWD. So you go back to your why before you start doing it. You reflect, who are these people? Do I include them? Yes, you will need to include them. Before you include them, what do you need? Get all those accessibility things that we've mentioned, how it's done, and try to work with us, try to work with the PWDs, and you might be surprised that really it's a great project. It's not just a project. I just want to emphasize this. I remember Sir Eric in the video, in the starting video, what they call that, the preview.
Yeah.
Sir Eric emphasized that the performances, that arts or the theater arts is not just about for the show, but it's actually aiming to do a social change. So if you are not going to do things right, then how you be able to perform for that goal? So that's all.
Maybe we can hear Miss Mayat first, and then Miss Myra. Miss Mayat, ano po kayo mute? Okay.
Yeah, there's no harm in trying. Siguro naman pag nag-inumpisahan mo, kukunin mo or pipiliin mo yung may skill, may talent na. So just try. Open the opportunity for them.
Right.
O, diba? So, ganun lang. And then, why not? And then, same thing sa employment, yun yung pinaglalaban is the word. Pero in every aspect of life na wala pa yung opportunity for them, may I tell you, there's no harm in trying and just open the opportunity for them. Ayun.
Thank you. Ms. Myra?
I think I hope us you see us persons with disabilities as diverse as you. We are also as skilled as you. We may have a bit of our limitations, but include us because you will be surprised. It's just that we are in a pandemic right now. We have to find ways to make it everything art, especially more inclusive. We thank the ACC for this project, for this webinar, for having us, seeing us, taking us in the spotlight. And yes, always consult yung sabi ni Ms. Dea. Nothing about us without us. Ask us. Because this makes a better impact. You get the right information out because you have the right representation. And so you'll have better performances. And then and it's in general, you take parang a lens na make everyone see things at a different light. So accessibility for persons with disabilities is possible. You just got to give it a try. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I do hope that there are more projects involving PWDs. I mean, I remember Ms. Mayet saying a while ago that PWDs are defined by the limitations and that parang they're placed in a situation that they have to prove their abilities or the capacities to do something. So I hope this is a start wherein we will have more projects. We treat them as equals, PWDs, because they have a lot to offer actually in our projects, especially now that the digital platform somehow levels us off in a way, as mentioned before. Okay, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this session. And I thank you all, our speakers, Ms. Dea, Ms. Myra, and Ms. Mayet. Of course, our interpreters, Ms. Claire and Ms. Joy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So we encourage you to continue the conversation online through the various social media channels. You can tag our speakers using the social media handles that they have provided on our poster. Please also visit their Facebook pages or their sites. And please don't forget to use #Beta so that others can learn from your thoughts. We invite you to help us improve this webinar series by completing a quick survey, which will be posted occasionally, or which has been posted occasionally in the Facebook comments section of this live stream. We are open to suggestions for future webinar topics that might interest you. A recording of our session will be made available on our YouTube channel in the coming weeks. So please check back this Facebook page in the coming days for the announcement. Please keep yourselves updated to our webinar sessions and fresh new episodes, which we will be creating in the coming months based on your suggestions. And while you're here, might as well like and share our page. All right, so speaking of upcoming webinars, tomorrow, April 16, we have an exciting, informative, and certainly entertaining webinar from theater practitioners who crossed over to the Kumu side in our T community, using Kumu as a creative digital platform for theater. We have Mr. Eman Feliciano, Ms. Olivia Christine Nieto, and Mr. JV Canta as our speakers. And lastly, we close this season of Be Together on April 17 with the episode App to Date, Applications to Boost Productivity and Student Life, with Ms. Isabella Peterson, Ms. Julia Enriquez, and myself. Again, these webinars are curated and produced for you, so please check our Facebook page for updates. And lastly, this webinar series is entirely online, free, and open to the public as part of Benilde's fundraising collaboration with De La Salle Philippines Kada Uno on the project BARKada Uno, Benilde Artists Rising, #Bangon Artista, an online fundraising event that seeks to assist the most vulnerable members of the arts and culture sectors. So please donate what you can to these banks. We have Banco de Oro, Bank of the Philippine Islands, Rizal Commercial Bank Corporations, and Security Bank Corporation. You can also donate via PayPal. We have De La Salle Philippines. Please send your deposit slips to kadauno@delasal.ph. As we end this webinar episode, allow me to thank those who have helped in making this series possible. The School of Design and Arts, headed by our Dean, Architect Dottie Acela Domingo. The Benilde Arts and Culture Cluster, headed by Associate Dean Magdalena De Leon. Our faculty and students in the Theater Arts program. Benilde's Culture and Arts Unit with Ms. Louise Dayan Estrella as OIC Director. Our media and communications partners, Cultural Promotions Team, headed by Ms. Julia Enriquez. And of course, we would like to thank the invaluable efforts of our OJTs from the Theater Arts and Production Design programs. And of course, Benilde School of Deaf Education and Applied Studies for providing our interpreters for today, Ms. Claire Domingo and Ms. Catherine Joy Villarreal. Again, we thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you tomorrow, same time, same channel for our next webinar. Thank you very much and have a great evening.